Bama Cat, good morning. Will and chat, good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to this morning's news and chat. Good morning, Carol. Tammy, good morning from coastal North Carolina. North Carolina. I haven't been to North Carolina since 1990. Ooh, gotta get back there. Rebecca, Teddy Rose, good morning. Good morning, everyone. I hope we all had a wonderful week. Micah Stevens, as always, Will Kondakra. Good morning to you, Mike. Why didn't that auto size? I don't know. You'd love the weather, Will. It's got to be better than what it is here. Right now it is raining cats and doggies, as they say. Today, I think the high temperature today is supposed to be 60, but calling for rain all day long. But anyways, hope everyone had a great week. Debbie Gilligan, good morning. Good morning. Welcome. What do you think of the developments in the Delphi case? The father and son suspected of murder. Well, I don't think that the son is. I mean, he's obviously a creep, and he's got his own problems. But if you actually kind of line up the last known driver's license photo of his father he matches pretty close to the last, not necessarily the last one, but in between like the last and the first composite, sketch that they released. Uh, I don't know. He definitely had access to his son's accounts. Did he do it to, for some reason? I mean, he's got a violent history, so I guess we'll have to kind of, wait and see what happens there. Tip it dot. Good morning, and morning, kind of Kelly, Gamma. Good morning as well, or afternoon for Gamma, right? 8 hours from now. Francie, Catherine Maloney. Good morning. Good morning. Hiya. So the first one that case that I wanted to talk to this morning was sent to me. This is actually a news article that I'm going to put up on the screen, but it was sent to me by a viewer subscriber who wanted to know if I had heard about this, the events that took place in this case and what I thought of it. So I'm going to put it up on the screen here. American Idol winner Lane Hardy arrested in Louisiana. So this is actually the fifth American Idol star since the show started that has been arrested for something serious like this. The country singer was arrested amidst allegations that he bugged his ex-girlfriend's dorm room. Now the other ones were that Williams, I can't remember his first name, Kyler Williams. He was arrested for DUI and vehicular homicide. And there were a couple others who've been arrested for other less serious crimes, but crime's still the same. But in this actual, there's what it looked like when he was touring. He looks close to the same, but the haircut's changed. It's an older photo. But American Idol winner Lane Hardy was arrested in Louisiana and booked in local prison, jail. I don't know why they call it prison, for People magazine, amidst allegations that he placed a recording device in his ex-girlfriend's dorm room. The 21-year-old singer said in a statement on Thursday that he received a warrant from the Louisiana State University Police Department earlier that day and was being fully cooperative. Now, not the ex-girlfriend herself, but a lot of her friends, and this is how the subscriber brought this to me, was on Snapchat and on another site called Rumble. Never heard of it until they actually sent me the links to the videos on Rumble. But they were talking and pretty much trashing this guy's character all over the place for supposedly putting a recording device in her dorm room. Basically, they said that he was snooping on her and invading her privacy because he wanted to know what she was up to and if she was dating somebody else, kind of painting him as a jealous ex-lover. But they went a lot farther in destroying his character, his abilities. They said that the American Idol is fixed, and that a lot of their voices that you hear, they made a lot of accusations, but I don't want to get into them all. But they also one of the more harsher things, because this is not proven and it didn't come up in the case anywhere I could find online to actually reply back to those who had sent me the message originally, is that he supposedly has some. I don't want to trash him, but they said that he has sexual perversions. That the ex-girlfriend, and that was one of the reasons why she is no longer with him, and that they have already put him on one of those websites that warns people not to date this individual. I don't want to put the name of the website out there, but they're very prolific at, you can post, pictures or like a picture of your person, your ex, and say this is what we're on in the relationship, and this is what their problems are. But I don't know if I can't really reply back to them much more than what's on, the tabloid, magazine, articles. There was a small write up in a couple of mainstream media newspapers, but only that he had turned himself in to the university police department and he was being cooperative in this investigation that he supposedly did this actual thing. And we have to, first we have to start off with he is presumed innocent, and, and he is innocent until proven guilty, basically. Not presumed innocent. He is innocent until proven guilty. Good morning, Short Nice. How are you doing this morning? I hope you had a wonderful week. But the Louisiana State University spokesman confirmed to People that Hardy was arrested on Friday morning and booked into on interception of disclosure of wire electronic oral communications. He was booked into the East Baton Rouge Parish prison. It's not a prison. I don't know why they keep on using that word, but people seem, in America, they, especially if you're writing articles outside, we have jails that, city or county jails are at level one. The next step up is prison, and then, and there are different levels within prisons, but jails and prisons are different. But a lot of people use the terms, loosely, but he's not in prison. He turned himself into the county jail. It's, so don't know why, on People magazine they use the word prison, but in a lot of the articles you'll find it says he turned himself into the parish, jail. So he was released later on. I think he had a post bond or something, but anyways, it's me again. That was the first one that they wanted. I have received a request if I knew more about, and where's the link? There it is. Now this is a case that I actually came across that I've been looking at myself. There are a couple of different things within this case that are connected to another case that one of the two parties. I will just say that I don't want to give it up too much, but they are connected to someone by the last name of Mullins, who is part of another case that I've actually one of these two parties. I won't say which one, but anyways, it's still an interesting case and one that you might want to read up on yourself because you never know where this is going to go from here. Alabama Sheriff's Office issues alert after inmate and corrections officer go missing. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, love behind bars. You never know what's going to happen. Everybody just wants love. A sheriff's office I bumped the stupid cursor there. In Alabama issued an alert on Friday after an inmate and assistant director of corrections went missing earlier in the day. Authorities said the inmate, who is being held on capital murder charges, should be considered armed and extremely dangerous. Excuse me. Lauderdale County Sheriff Rick Singleton told reporters on Friday that Vicky White, a 25-year-old veteran of the department, left the local earlier local detention center with Casey Cole White at 9:41 a.m. He said she told her the other officials that she was going to drop him off at the courthouse for a mental health evaluation, and then he was going to seek medical attention because she wasn't feeling well, despite having the same last name that are not related. Now, again, one of the two is actually connected to another case with the last name of Mullins, which is not, very different from this. It's a completely different case that I had been researching for a while, but you never know what's going to happen in this case. But I guess it's kind of speculation on my part to say that it was a that they ran off together. Yeah, he could have kidnapped her, but there's been about a 50-50 mix of reporting on that the two of them ran off, and 50% that he kidnapped her and took her, may have done something to her, and he had faked the actual mental illness just to get out of the actual prison himself, and he overpowered her. It's been about a 50-50 mix, but either way, still, it the where it's going to go from here, we're going to have to just stick with it and watch it. This all took place on Friday, so just a couple of days ago, well, the other day, so Saturday. So and back to me. All right. Well, that's it for those cases. Miss Jean, good morning. Welcome. I was going to the Barry Morphy trial, but it was dismissed, and now the judge Lama resigned from the bench. Yeah, but Barry's got other problems. He's going to be back in court soon. I think that he had an arraignment on the voting. He cast the ballot for Suzanne. Now, what's interesting about that is he did not sign her name on that. He signed as a witness, checked the box for Donald Trump, and then signed it as a witness. And according to the information that's been put out there, uh, she would have voted for him, and he just witnessed it and sent it in. it He's not going to face a lot of jail time, if any, on that at all. He's got other problems that people what cases. So you're definitely, if they go forward with it, there definitely will be that. And I don't think Barry's going to get away with all of it completely. People record people with their phones all the time. It's illegal to do. Well, I guess it is. This is different. Short, nice. Yes and no, depending upon the actual state. Now, I live in a state where it's called first party consent. In order to record someone, like a phone conversation, I don't have to have your consent to do it. I can record the phone call or record you video. You could be on the stream. I can record you from my state. That's completely legal without you even knowing it. I don't know how you do that with online in a stream. Kind of probably a bad example, but first party consent is that first party, consents to actually recording the other person. You can't use it legally in a court of law unless you get consent from the other party in my state. Now, I also know in the state of Minnesota, it's a two-party consent state. In the state of Minnesota, you have to have the consent of both parties being recorded to be able to use it legally or to actually record. And that's the catch, is some states actually say you can't record another person without their knowledge that they're being recorded, video or audio. And that's, so it depends on which state you're actually, reside in. Federal law does not really stipulate on, if you can record someone at all. You can record whoever you want. You can record every phone call that you receive, and without telling anybody. You just cannot use it for a legal sense. If you want to make a transcript of it, you just tell everybody, and whoever calls you, just tell them simply, hey, you know what? I'm hearing impaired, and you can say that I'm making a transcript of every call. just like when you call like customer service for some places, they say this call may be recorded for quality assurance. I can tell you for sure, a lot of the call centers like Amazon and stuff like that, that say that if you call them, they really don't use it for too much quality, concern, quality assurance, unless there's an issue with the person who it comes up later on. They promised a whole bunch of stuff that's not within the script. Because when you call Amazon and a lot of call centers, they have a book that they're going by. This person says this is your answer. This person says this is your answer. So they're reading from a script, and they have to stay within that script. So only 12 two-party consent states. Kathleen, good morning. Chat from Las Vegas. Are you there for the NFL draft, or do you live there, or is it that you are there for CrimeCon? I tell you, everybody right now, I had every intention to go to CrimeCon this year until I found out that CrimeCon was going to be in Las Vegas the same day as the NFL draft. And I was like, I'm not going there. A bunch of drunken, football fans. I mean, I love football, but I don't want to, hang out with, 9,000 other people who are a bunch of drunken idiots, who are upset that their team didn't pick a certain player. Something that's completely out of your control. It all bothers me. It's like, oh look, I wanted them to pick this person. I'm upset. I'm going to get drunk and be an idiot. So I was like, nope, I ain't going to CrimeCon. Maybe next year. You've lived there for 30 years? And I thought you were going to CrimeCon Pentagon. I had every intention to go until I found out the NFL draft was going to be in the same place. My grandmother, Kathleen, lived in McLaughlin. She worked for Circus for 45 years. She sold tickets to the different shows. Sorry about that. Forgot to turn my phone off. Stay away from the strip. Yeah, but there's some good places there. It's very touristy. A lot of pickpockets are there, and a lot of con games and con artists who work the strip. They're all looking for what they call a mark. Somebody that can make a fast buck off of. But there are good parts of Vegas and bad parts of Vegas. It all depends on what if you're in a group and you want to you stay together. I mean, my friends make an annual trip down there to the Las Vegas Speedway to watch the NASCAR, and they all go in a motor home and they stay right there at the actual raceway, and but they take a tour into town, to hit a couple of the casinos and do like the zip line or the touristy stuff. I've gone with them a couple of times. It's just never been my thing until my grandmother passed away. God rest her soul. But I used to go there, and they would all stay at the racetrack, and I'd go to my grandmother's so I could hang out with her, because I would much rather spend time there, with her, and hang, and her friends and she lived in what they call it, not an assisted community, but everybody there kind of worked together, and they had like a village of people who were all retirees, but they all had their own homes. Kind of hard to explain. It's not assisted living, but it's kind of like that. I worked at a theme park. That's cool. Good morning, Juicy Jules. Hi, y'all, and all cuties. Good morning, Juicy Jules. Will, was the woman in prison a prison guard, or was she in charge of the prison? She, Francie, she had her duties were a little bit of both. She worked on the administrative side, but she also was a guard. She was a guard and an administrator. So I don't know. It's not clear by the actual press releases which one of those duties she was doing at the time. if she was working more administrative and as also a backup guard. She did not work a guard full time. I know that part, but she had other duties as well. She worked, if you read the actual press release of her disappearance, it lists her by her job title. It lists her how many years she worked there. It listed obviously a description of what she looked like, what the car that she was transporting him this prisoner in is, and then some other details like time, last time her cell phone pinged, what and information like that. But it doesn't break down her actual description of what she did at the actual prison cell. So it's kind of hard to say, but I know she worked as a guard part time or in some capacity, but more towards the administrative side. So I don't know if that really even answers your question. Sort of. Senior apartments? No, they all had actual homes. What would they're not mobile homes. They were all in a they're manufactured off-site and then brought there and finished. I don't know what you call it, but they're not a manufactured home like you think of a manufactured home, like a mobile home park. It's not like that. They're smaller, two bedroom, one bath homes. It's a McLaughlin. I mean I know how to get there, but I don't know what the name of the damn street is. But it's a planned community, and it was for you had to be of a certain age to live there within the community. So they didn't allow like people in their 20s or 30s or 40s to be there. It was more those in the twilights of their years who lived there. It was a really nice community. Yeah, the hanging out at the rec center was pretty cool. That was like the highlight of their days. They had dancing and they did karaoke, they did crafts and stuff like that. But people had their own little golf carts that they moved around in, within the community. They all had some, I shouldn't say all, but a lot of them had cars. They still drove. They were independent for in a large capacity. They had their own little home, so it was really nice. 55 plus? Yeah, it was definitely 55 plus. Mike, new Biden, not good news. He was with Obama. Say weird. And yes, probably it would help if I've read what Mike said. What did Mike say? Where is Mike's comment? How far up? Okay, people still. Biden got dead people's votes. Is that what Mike said? Did he? I don't know. I'm so over the entire thing about, ballots being fixed and hanging chads, and we're screwed either way. I don't care what political party you belong to. You know, until somebody is elected and actually put in office and does something to change my life for the positive, I don't give a crap who you are or what party you belong to. When it comes to things that affect my life politically, it's school board, city council, state representatives. That's what affects my life. What some asshole, sorry for my language, some asshole in Washington, D.C. wearing a suit does, if he's senile or stutters or falls asleep at the podium, or if he's a reality, TV star, I don't care. Because what they're doing is not affecting or changing my life right here. And the only control I really have over my life, and when it comes to my vote, is voting for the person who's on the school board, city council, and state representative. Those are the only people who have somewhat of control over changing how my life and my family's life is. You can point out, well, look, this person made the Affordable Care Act. I don't care. I already had health insurance, and I wasn't paying an arm and a leg for it anyways. I had affordable health care already. Sure, that helped other people, but it didn't change my life. No, this person gave stimulus money during the pandemic. I didn't get it. I didn't qualify for it because we made too much money. That didn't affect my life again. But the school board deciding that, in my son's school, that they're going to take out 300 books because they determined that they're, you know, teaching a doctrine that, should not be in a school library, like See Dick Run, and Pete the Cat books. When they decide to take that literature out of my school's library, that affects my son, which then affects my life. My vote now is to make sure that that asshole who did that never gets reelected again to affect my son's education. That's affecting my life. It's affecting my son's life. That guy over there who falls asleep at the podium is not affecting my life. That's my view on politics. And that's why I don't talk about it. Because people are on both sides, and both sides want to tear you apart from everybody else. Do not find common ground on anything. Because as long as they keep us divided, two separate carts, and when this side hates this side, and this side hates this side, we go back and forth, they're able to do whatever they want with billions of dollars that they have at their access over and over again without caring a damn about you or whatever happens. And this one will be gone, or this one will be gone in a week, and their party will be in charge, and then another party will be in charge, and it goes back and forth. That's politics, and that's why I hate talking about it. Sleepy Biden. Did he get dead people votes? I don't know. I'm sure if you go back and you find, you do, research, there's probably dead people that have voted for other people. Or is it more that it was a common name that, somebody was listed as dead and they're actually alive? I know of two people who the Social Security Administration has listed as dead, and they were very much alive, and they golf with me every single week. The Social Security Administration listed both of them as dead just because they're older and they stopped, using credit or anything else because they got to a point in their lives where it's like there's no reason to use any of it anymore. The Social Security Administration, along with some database someplace, listed them both as dead. And if you want to have a nightmare on your hands, try to find a way to get the Social Security Administration, because as soon as they deactivate your Social Security number, you're dead basically to everybody. Your insurance companies, to everything from your life insurance, everything. You're dead. Once they list you as dead, you're dead. But they make mistakes all the time. Did somebody get listed as dead who wasn't dead? Maybe they had the last name of Smith. Nobody's doing a real investigation into that because it's easier to talk about this person had dead people vote for him, or this person did, or that person did. So, but again, if you get listed in a Social Security death index, it's not easy. My friend Jack, it took him 3 years to get to the point to be listed as alive as opposed to being dead. He's a great guy. Even at his advanced age, he still is out there every week golfing and doing whatever he can. Johnny Depp, wow, hitting him and Amber. Don't understand that one. I don't know how the entire defamation of character thing is going to work. I mean, Amber doesn't have $50 million to pay Johnny Depp if he wins. If he wins, he's not going to get $50 million. She doesn't have it. And what is his net worth? Like 300 million, and she's got nothing. And he didn't sign a prenuptial agreement with her. So she's going to, if he wins, they're just going to say, okay, what the money you would have gotten, we're just going to keep 50 million of it back because you lost. And then in the meantime, the two of them look like a couple of a-holes in the news because neither side is really doing all that great of a job. And I'll admit, I haven't been following it as closely as I could. And I catch the highlights here and there as they come across on my news feed. Then some of them I don't bother to watch, depending on the catchy title. I did watch the one about the pooping. Out of principle. And good morning, Amy. Left-handed RN, good morning. Yeah. Is it really worth, even if you're suing somebody out of principle, you have to, his name, and everything that's going to connect with him. Now, let's just say that, he wants to do another movie. I mean, we know he's not going to do the Pirates of the Caribbean again, but let's just say there's another movie that comes out down the road, and the director, and staff is thinking about, a leading man. Are they going to want to hire Johnny Depp, and all of his drug abuse and raging alcoholism? Are they going to want to hire him, and with all this that's out in the in the public now? Are they going to want to hire him to do the role, or are they going to pick Seth Rogen or somebody? That's probably a bad example because he's probably high as shit right now. Are they going to want to pick somebody else? I don't know. How about Cumberbatch or somebody else? You know, it may come back to bite him, later on. And out of principle, you know, he got fired for the movie after that article. Yeah. Louise, good morning from Michigan. You gotta balance it, man. But he knew if he was suing her out of principle, he knew she didn't have $50 million. Why not just call it 100 million? She ain't gonna get that. He ain't gonna get it from her. Cold in Michigan today? Oh, I'm sorry. I believe that's part of the argument. His reputation was at stake. Yeah, and good morning, Colleen. Yeah, I understand that, but yeah, it's like I've sued. The last time I sued somebody, I was involved in a car accident, and I knew when I went to and I filed a lawsuit against the guy, I knew I was never going to get a dime. And yeah, so I sued him out of principle. And then he didn't show up to court, so I won by default. But I had spent so much time preparing all my evidence and everything, and I laid it all out. I asked the judge, I go, if the party's not going to show up, and he's like, highly unlikely. I'm like, can I be heard last? So you can get through all the other cases that are ahead of, that have to come after me. So I can actually go through and I want to present my case. And he's like, well, you win by default anyways. And I'm like, yeah, but you're here for the next, 2 hours until, court's over with. And you're probably going to have time after this, but I'd like to present my case anyways. And he's like, I guess, sure. And then he heard all the other cases and he called me back up and he's like, okay, well, what do you have? And I had, accident recreation that was done. I had photographs, video, audio, the police records from the individual. I had all the evidence laid out to paint this guy. And he's like, okay, well, thank you for doing all that. You were more prepared than most lawyers who come in here in front of me. And I'm like, I wanted to make sure that you knew the facts of the case. So, and I won the judgment for $5,000. and I never got a dime, and I'm never going to get a dime because the man who caused the accident was an illegal alien, did not have residency, a green card, or anything in America, was a wanted felon by ISIS at the time for deportation. And when they finally did catch up with him, they deported him, and he hasn't come back. I think he went back to Guatemala or wherever he's from. But don't look at it as that part of it, the race part of it. That I'm just pointing that out because he was an illegal alien and he had no reason to be here, and he caused the accident, and he knew nobody was ever going to collect from him. But I sued him anyways. If he does come back and he gets a green card and he gets a job above the table, I may be able to collect someday. So, and you can't turn that over to a collection agency because they will not collect on somebody who is outside of the country. You can sue them. The judgment's out there. It's the principle we fight most of the time. Well, yeah. Good morning, Patty. Yes, Johnny wants people to know the facts too, no matter how it makes him look. Anything's better than what she accused him and said about him. Yeah, messed up on drugs and alcohol, but he owns up to his part of a whole mess. Kind of Kelly. Good morning, kind of Kelly. I heard Camilla, the queen, consort. Is that true? I don't know. That's a good question, Kathleen. I do not know the answer to it. Maybe somebody in the chat knows the answer to it. Will, did you hear investigators discovered high velocity blood splatter at Alec Murdaugh's clothing? I always thought he did it or paid someone to kill his wife and son. Oh, I was before the blood splatter, Gene. I was pretty sure that he had killed his wife and son at their house. I was pretty sure of it. And I based that on everything else that he had done. I don't believe that his housekeeper tripped over a dog and died. I didn't believe that. I didn't, and that's when all the information was coming out at the same time about all the other shady dealings he was involved in. Wow, did we find out a whole lot more later on? Smoke them if you got them. But I'm not surprised by that at all. High velocity blood splatter on his clothing. Not surprised by that at all. I mean, hell, he paid someone to kill him, and on the roadside there, and that didn't work out. Alex Murdaugh is screwed. It's nearly impossible to have a relationship with someone when drugs and alcohol are involved. Better not to get involved to begin with. If they are actually truly addicted to alcohol or drugs, Patty, I would have to actually agree with you there because obviously they cannot have that emotional bond if they're you know being numbed, I guess you could say, by alcohol or drugs. But there are people who do recover, and then once in recovery, there's a chance. But I've had a lot of people in my life. My nephew, who's still addicted to meth. I mean, I love the kid dearly. It destroys your relationship. It doesn't just destroy the addict; it destroys the family as well. Still love him though. Oh, that's true, Patty. Everyone shall be judged by God in the end. Will, did you see that Alec Baldwin police interrogation? Um, I watched the one that happened initially right afterwards. Is that one you're talking about, Connie? Oh, who was that? Francie. um, where he didn't know that she had died yet, and he was there at the police department. I think that's the video you're talking about. But yes, I have watched that. You just ended a 5-year relationship because of drinking. Good for you, Connie. You think it, you have to take care of yourself in the end. You have to take care of yourself. Your well-being is, and emotional, well-being is much more important. And it's amazing that just I don't know the life itself. No one gives us an answer key to how to live our lives. But there are certain things you can pretty much say, look, just don't do these things. But those who are truly addicted, I feel sorry for them. I really do. Wow, that is strange situation with Camilla. Palace forced Prince Charles to marry who me Palace said meant strict requirements. People put their energy into themselves than worrying about other people. We'll all be better. Yeah, but at the same time, though, you gotta care a little bit about the people around you too. You know, don't want to. We don't want a whole world full of narcissists. But I get you're not saying that, short nice. I understand exactly what you're saying. Happy that the strength to the end of the relationship takes a lot of strength to be able to do something like that. I've had friends who've been in abusive relationships that unfortunately it didn't work out in the long term. It didn't work out in the short term, but they still thought that maybe this time is different. Maybe this time they'll do something, and think the circumstances will change. They kept on hoping that everything would get better. It never did. So eventually you have to say, look, enough is enough. And that takes a lot to be able to do that. I've helped people get off of drugs and alcohol, but only when they were ready. And that's the big question, Patty. When are they actually ready? They say that people have to hit that rock bottom before they're actually ready to make the change. But and courts forcing people into drug rehab or Alcoholics Anonymous or whatever it may be, or both. Um, they've already proven that it doesn't work. All it is punitive towards the individual itself. They have to be wanting, like you said, they have to want to they make the change. Prince Charles never loved Diana. He loved Camilla from the beginning. Did he? Oh, I have to get going, Will. Thanks to you, to everyone in the chat. And Pip Dot, you have a great weekend. And stay safe out there. Rock bottom, no sending people to programs like court order is waste. Yeah. Well, they've already, in my state, and we have a, what they call it, it's like a diversion program. But they've had it for the last 15 years here. And they found that, going back and looking at the actual, how many people actually got clean and sober and stayed clean and sober through the diversion program, it's less than 2% of all of them that they've sent through either, required, treatment, going to AA, NA, and these different programs. some of them in 60-day inpatient programs. They looked at it all, and it had a 2% success rate. And then they set up an additional court, a drug court, that only dealt with people with drug dependencies, that was separate from the rest of it. And the drug court had about the same amount of success rate. The only court that they found that actually had any success in that 15-year period was what they call Veterans Court. And for those who were in the armed services who were veterans, they found that court actually, where they put them through a program where they were with other veterans who understood where they were coming from and where they have been and why they may be using, drugs or alcohol to self-medicate, basically, to get past, PTSD or whatever the issues might be. That's the only court that they found that has been, had a success rate that was larger than 2%. That one had around a 45% success rate because they put people together who were, alike and had similar backgrounds. They didn't have the person, next to them who, to talk with, who was a peer, who had the same experiences, but they could understand and relate to where they were coming from, as opposed to just shoving them into a court system where they had to go and they had to do their 60 days and then go to AA or NA and get a paper signed. And that it was almost a complete failure. And all the money they spent during that 15 years for a 2% change, versus what they could have done if they would just said, you know what, put them through the normal court. No, it's not short nights, not in our state. Some of the programs that they had inpatient, obviously those were only for people who had insurance, and they forced them into inpatient programming. If they had insurance, they could pay for it. Medicaid and Medicare wouldn't pay for it in our state because they didn't have funding for it. But then a large majority of them went through outpatient, where they had to go to therapy meetings. I can't remember what it said in the paper, but they had to go to a certain amount of meetings per week, outpatient. So they would go there for, I don't know, some time, maybe an hour. I don't know. I'm just guessing. But they had to go for a certain amount of time, like so many days per week. And then they had to go to AA and NA. They had to have so many meetings and they had to get it all signed. But no, they had to pay for it all themselves. And they found it only had a 2% success rate. Is it the programs that they're sending them to, that the actual structure that sucks? Very well may be. Is it that, whatever, but somewhere along the line it wasn't working at all. And they spent 15 years and all this taxpayer money to send people through, and then the individual themselves had to pay for, a great portion of it. Other people just quit. They just stopped going. But he said everything in the palm of her hand, hooked up with an addict, and now she's lost her kids, home, everything because of the needle. Oh, that's sad. Another clean addict will call out the BS and let them know when they're only fooling themselves. They'll hold them accountable because they've been through AA is good. There's a show it used to be. I don't know if it's still being filmed or not. Man, it was about Florida and the industry in Florida, where there's so many drug rehab programs in South Florida, inpatient programs, and it's all just a scam to get the money from people's insurances. But that they had a couple of friends who would the program was about them getting clean or something like that. I can't remember what the name of the show was, but they were addicts in recovery who would go out and try to find these people, and get them into programs. But they knew that there was a large part of that about the they knew, the BS, these people were feeding them, if they were clean or not. They could tell. Two of them were brothers. Will, do you like the movie Chinatown? Chinatown. I don't know if I've ever seen Chinatown, Francie. Um, who's in the movie? Because I'm sorry, but I know it's not Chinatown. But the first movie that comes to mind, when I hear that in a movie, I think of Big Trouble in Little China, but probably not the same movie. I lost my nephew to drugs. I pray for your niece. I hope somehow my nephew makes it out alive, but he got clean and he was clean for 7 years, 6 years, and then went right back to it. Destroyed his life all over again. Dope, Dope Sick Nation. I don't remember what the name of the show was. I think it was on A&E or something like that. Somebody I know, I was over at their house and their kid was watching it. Could have been Dope Sick Nation or something like that. But the one guy had like his entire face was all pot marked. And then there was his friend was a lady, but they weren't a couple. They were just two former addicts trying to get people off the streets and into rehab and stuff like that, and trying to find them. Law enforcement are now charging and convicting drug dealers who sell fentanyl laced drugs. Hmm, didn't know that. I mean, they should be, anyways, unless you're in Portland, I guess, or Seattle, where they're not arresting people, for small crimes like that. I see these all these mentally ill people every day on the streets and get caught up on the drugs and alcohol because they need to be institutionalized, or government threw them out on the street in the late 60s, 70s, and 80s, Patty. The largest population of those who were kicked out of mental health hospitals was in the early 1980s. They shut down more institutions from between 1980 and 1985 here in America, in the lower 48 states, than at any other period of time. Places where, and they didn't care where the person went, send them home to their families, send them out on the streets. In some cases, they literally opened the door, hand them their clothes, and said, "Go that way." And after they got rid of all the people in the building, patient wise, they locked the doors because there was no money left. One of the biggest disgraces, here in America, is that we do not spend any money. When in comparison, we spend money on it, but in comparison to some of the other things that we spend money on, we spend billions and billions of dollars on the war machine every single year. If we just took a fraction of that, say 100 million, 200 million more, and put it towards mental health, here in America, we would be doing a hell of a lot better. But there's no money in it. You can't tout, that on the political, trail. You can't say, "Hey, you know what? I helped, 500 more people, who were dealing with mental health, a mental health crisis last year. Elect me as your next senator." That doesn't make the airplay on television. People don't want to think about it. I've seen dope sick nations very sad. Here in California, it was Reagan was governor here. When Reagan was governor, he didn't do a whole hell of a lot when he was president either. He did start the war on drugs, which was a fucking joke. Sorry again for my language, but the war on drugs was a joke. Oops, got disconnected. I'm back. The jail system here in America is the new mental health hospital. That's the truth. The jail system. There are people on the street right now today who are going to commit a petty crime to get arrested so they will get sent back to jail so they can get their medication so they can somewhat have a normal life. They may still be homeless, but at least they're on their medication. They have hope to get off the street because they're on their medication, but they can't get their medication unless they're incarcerated, and then they kick them back out and they have the rest of their medication. That's messed up, and it happens every single day in America. Well, and not only did Nancy say, just say no to drugs, but we also had the CIA smuggling cocaine into America at the same time. And if you want to read a really interesting article or research something really interesting, look at the incarceration rate for crack. Those who got caught with crack versus cocaine. Cocaine was dominantly used by more affluent parts of society, those who had money, where crack cocaine was used more by the Latino and the African American community because it was cheaper, drug. So when it came to the crack wars, and the supposed crack babies, which were never true, we punished those with possession of crack a lot harder than those who got caught with cocaine. That's the justice system for you. Oh yeah, yeah. They proved that the CIA helped smuggle cocaine into I think it was the Florida Keys and the Carolinas. It was like the drop off points, and then they smuggled it across the United States. Just like the stupid guns that went into Mexico. Oh, we're gonna track them. We're gonna track them and see where all these guns that are being flooded into Mexico are going. But they had no real program to actually track where the guns went. Well, they had no idea where the cocaine was going to go and how it was going to get cut up and how it was going to be used down the road. 30 million on crack pipes. Hmm. I have you've got yours. No, Patty, you know what? I was on the government website the other day and I requested more of the rapid COVID testing, but I forgot to request my crack pipes. Well, that's cool. I'm glad you live in a town that actually cares. We have one homeless shelter for women here. We have one homeless shelter for men. And they had to build both of their homeless shelters with their own money, their own fundraising. They got nothing from the state or the city, except for the city did give them a little bit of a break on the property itself. But they're both run by Salvation Army St. Vincent de Paul. Bill, what's wrong with the U.S. that we don't care about the mentally ill? I don't get it. Francie, I wish I had the answer for you. I really wish I had the answer for you. And just like my wife, and when she was in school working on her degree, that was one of the questions that was brought up by one of her professors, when she first started, is you can work all day long in this profession, and do 30 years, in this profession, and to, at the end of the day, trying to find people the right placement for, to get the help that they need is impossible. And it's not that you can't help some people. You have to take the victories where you can get them. But in a lot of ways, they just don't care. Well, that's cool, Patty. I work with well, I shouldn't say that I do. I used to, until this YouTube thing pretty much took over my life. But I used to work with a volunteer nonprofit organization where we would go out during the winter time and the hot points of the summer, and we would give out clean socks. Everybody got clean socks. Everybody got bottled water, and they got like a little gift bag of other things. There was like a small packet of band-aids, soap, a bar of soap in there, toothpaste, toothbrush. But we'd go out to the homeless population and give them these things that they needed. And you'd be surprised just how many homeless, really, really want just fresh, clean socks. They need a fresh, clean pair of socks. Lotion, that's cool. We did it with the Royal the Moose, international organization. Me, my wife, my daughter, my mother, every friend I have is and, how they Royal and we and never news, news around the world. We do so much for children and for elderly and those within our communities, and we do it, and we never seek the limelight. You're cutting out, Will, in and out the sound. Oh, I'm sorry, Patty. Oh my, Will, breaking up on me. I'm sure. I'm sure I am. No buffering with Francie. All right. Prisons and jails should not be for profit, but unfortunately, I don't see that changing because a lot of people making a lot of money off of prisoner labor. Kathleen, the federal government is closing down and getting out of the for-profit system. So federal prisons and federal installations that have been privatized across the United States are no longer, after the end of this fiscal year, going to be for-profit centers. They will be taken back over by the federal government. But there are obviously for-profit jails and state prisons all across the United States. But the federal government is ending the program as of the end of 2022. Completely breaking up. I'm sorry, Francie. Around here are privately owned. It's a big business here with 15 jails and prisons surrounding me. Ooh, I'm sorry, Gene. I can't do anything about the feed at all. It's the shitty weather that I'm having, and nothing works. My feed on my end says I have 4 out of 5 bars, but you can hear me now fine. Well, anyways, I need to welcome all of the new subscribers who have joined my channel this past week. Now, this list is a little bit long, so if you need to, take a break, I suggest you can do it now. All right. So first off, we have Ellie Grimes, Matt Hunter, Eddie Valargas, Jacqueline Hoover, Rob Rutland, Olivia Jones, Victoria Kaiser, Linda Liming, Margaret Bylander, Mr. Superman. I'm sure that's not his real last name. Caitlin Lewis, Susan 242, Maria Hago, Blunt Butt. I'm sure that's not the real name either. E. Karen Crids, Whitmore EST Dot, Daymore Elmore, Robert Platten, Carol Roy, Rebecca Hunter, Nellie Smith, 2, Human Little, sure that's not a real name either, Auntie Moore, 2, Mona Ribner, David Tihera, Gail Evans, Video Now, I'm sure that's not a real name either, Cornerstone, sure that's not a real name either, but still welcome to all of them anyways. Eddie Kraft, Oma Yates, Lorenzo Bird, Susan Gaskin, Rebecca Woodland, Will Scott, and Michelle Burks. Those are the new subs from the past 7 days. Welcome to each and every one of you to 411 Now. And to all my returning and subscribers and those who have been here for a while, thank you again. I'm changing your name to Blunt Butts too. Yeah, Blunt Butts. Blunt Butt. No S on that end of it. So you could probably go with Mike. You could probably go with just Blunt Butts. Blunt. This is all one word. Blunt Butt. Butt. So changing my name to Wonder Woman. I have somebody on actually my subscriber list named Wonder Woman, but not Miss Wonder Woman, just Wonder Woman. And I have a Spider-Man. I have a Perry Mason. I have what was the other one? Well, there's MI5, detective, Shadow Man. I've got two or three different variations of that. I think it might be the same person or with different accounts, but I'm not sure. I haven't seen MI5 lately. I think he's been busy. He was moving from one house to another. At least that's the last message I remember seeing. But hey, people have different names on YouTube. I'm sure a lot of these are the same name. I mean, not the real name of the people, but either way. My mom said, busy people are happy people. I'm getting happier and happier. Okie dokie, good morning. And I'm glad that you're getting happier and happier. The only ones in charge of our happiness are ourselves. Just remember that. We're the only ones when it comes down to it that can control our own happiness. Will, what was my first car, Francie? That's easy. An AMC Gremlin. Green. Disgusting green, inside and out. AMC Gremlin. And then my second car was a Datsun. I want to say it was like this little Datsun 2-door car. I paid like $150 for it. I should change my name to Follow P1. Follow one, yeah. Yeah. AMC. That damn that gremlin. Oh, I had so many problems with that car. It was all electrical. It was all electrical. Damn thing ran fine. You'd be driving down the road at night and the lights would go off, and you have to get out and wiggle the wires underneath the hood to get the lights to turn back on. It was just a terrible car. I ended up selling it to a friend of mine who was a race car driver, but not like big time. But he was like a short track race car. He raced it in what was called mini stock. He took the motor and everything else underneath it, and I think he put a Pinto, like Ford motor and transmission and stuff in it. But he used it for several years as a race car. And the Datsun, I know exactly where the car is. It still sits in the backyard of the guy I sold it to. Thank you, Will, for all you do. Well, thank you, Jennifer. I hope you had a wonderful week, Jennifer. And thank you for being here with us. Oh, wow. My parents had a gremlin. We went on a road trip with 2 adults and 6 teens in it. Fun times. Wow. I never owned a Pinto. Out of all the crappy cars that I've owned in my lifetime, I've never owned a Pinto. See, my third car was actually a pickup truck, a Toyota pickup. It was like a early 70s, Toyota pickup, but the bed folded down the sides folded down 3 ways. It was made as a service truck. Um, I don't even think it was sold in America. I think it came through Canada or someplace. And after the pickup, what did I buy next? I bought a limited edition Ford Mustang that they only made like 100 of. But I didn't know it. It had the 5.0 in it, and then I put a Paxton supercharger on it. I was just stupid of me. I was young and stupid. I got so many speeding tickets in that car. And then my sister borrowed it from me one day and never returned it. She said it was stolen. I was like, yeah, whatever. um, then I bought it was a 1964 Corvair Monza. Corvair, 2-door hardtop, totally restored inside and out. Perfect show car. I had that until it couldn't get the 4 carburetors tuned anymore. And I sold it to a friend, mom's boyfriend. And he owned a service, auto mechanic shop. I sold it to him. And he had it until he died. You want a lot of races? Because he used to say beggars could ride, we'd all drive a Mustang. Yeah, it was the only Mustang I ever owned. Um, and then there was quite a few years where I didn't have a car or a truck or anything. Just didn't need one. So, for mainly the years that I was in the service, and then after I got out of the service, first car I bought after that was a Chevy Metro. But I lived in Seattle, so all I needed was a commuter car, something small to get me from Linwood, Washington, down to downtown Seattle. And most of the time, I took light rail, so I would go from Linwood to the rail, the where the buses and the light rail was, and then I'd go the rest of the way to downtown, beat the traffic. I got rid of that one. What did I get next? I don't know. I can't know. I didn't buy the truck yet. No, I bought it. Then I bought a Ford F-150. I had that up until about, I want to say, 10 years ago. Five, now a little long. It was less than that because I got my Dodge, and then I bought the Ford F-100 that I'm restoring. My first car was a 60 meep meep, or just meep meep. Good morning and welcome. Welcome to this morning's chat. The first car was a 1963 Rambler. I owned a Chevy Sprint, bought it for $300, 100,000 miles, sold it for $300 at 300,000 miles. Great car. Yeah, I've owned several variations of the Metro, the Sprint, the Aveo. They're all on the same platform, small little compact, two-door or four-door car. I've owned several variations of it. Bought, a couple of them brand new, like the Aveo 5 when it first came out. And then the last one I had was an Aveo. I can't remember the LS or whatever stupid trim level it was. But my wife sold that to her friend for $1,000, even though it was worth $5,000 at that time. She sold it to her for $1,000, and then her friend ghosted her. Don't know what happened there. Yugo. I've never owned a Yugo, but I had a good friend who had a Yugo Starfire. And good morning. My dad had a Rambler when I was little. It was so ugly. I would ride in it, and it was scary looking. Was your Corvair unsafe at any speed? No, Ralph Nader. But it was scary. That car had way too much speed for it. It was insane. That car on dry pavement, because all the weight was in the rear end of the car, and in the front, all this is gasoline. But anyway, that's unsafe. But distribution of weight in that car, if you hit the gas, too hard, you could fishtail the front end of the car pulling out of a parking spot. That was unsafe. But Ralph Nader, unsafe at any speed. I remember that. Corvairs. Good morning, Cement Shoes. Or cool convertibles to go to the beach in on 29 cents a gallon. Yeah, you ain't ever going to see no 29 cents a gallon again. Although there was a gas station that was in the news that got in trouble with the state because their gas pumps glitched, and they mistakenly sold premium gasoline for 45 cents a gallon. That was just this past week. 45 cents a gallon. Yeah. Corvairs. That was the only Corvair I ever owned. Somewhere in one of the boxes in the garage here, not too long ago, I found the original radio for the car in the bicentennial plate that used to be on the car. Next car was a red Pinto, a little all rusty. My wife has owned some interesting cars. A Peugeot station wagon. We bought that car for one reason. We bought a house, and it had one of those big, huge, 100-gallon above ground oil tanks, for home heating oil. And we bought that Peugeot because it was diesel, and that tank was full, but they just cut the line and capped it off. I mean, it was absolutely 100% full. You couldn't put another half a gallon in that damn thing. But they had converted the house from home heating oil, diesel fuel, basically. They had converted from that to electric when we bought the house. So there was like 100 gallons of this fuel sitting in the backyard in a tank, and it was still good. So we bought the Peugeot wagon because it ran, it was on diesel. So I drained it out slowly. I put one of those cranky things, to pump the gas out into a gas can. And whenever I needed gas for it, I just did it until the whole thing was empty. And then once we burned up used a whole 100 gallons of gas that was in there, we sold the car. But that was the only reason why we bought it. Otherwise, it was a terrible car. Goodbye, Colleen. You have a great weekend. I had a canary yellow Pinto back in the day. A Pinto. Pintos are supposedly unsafe as well. If you're rear-ended them, they're supposed to explode. I never seen it. And hell, we have a racetrack here. It's the fastest quarter mile in America. It's actually not even. It's considered a tri-oval, but I mean, there are a lot of people who raced Pintos, in the street stock, or I mean not street stock, but mini stock class. One car I had no floorboard on the passenger side. If it rained, you got soaked. that that's why you always keep a fresh stock of extra license plates, or buy what's called, go to a surplus sale with your city and buy old street signs. Put that on the floor. I've done that. Worked perfectly well. That, and throw some carpet over the top of it, and you got a new floor. I think we've all done some, inventive things with cars over the years. Yeah, I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth, so I had to get by with whatever I had. I think the very first car, that Gremlin, I think I paid like maybe, I don't know, a couple $100 for it. Couple $100. But one of the coolest cars I ever got was, I got a car from my grandfather. I got a '65 Buick Wildcat. It cost me $100 to fill the car, and well, at least it felt like it. Being a teenager, it felt like it took everything you had to fill the tank. And then by the time I got home with it, it was empty, and I had to, then come up to money to drive it somewhere else. But I very rarely drove that car. I drove it enough, but in the meantime, I bought the Gremlin and used it. That was the first car I bought. But my grandfather, I don't know what happened to that car, because I remember I parked it in my grandmother's garage when I left Minnesota and came out here. But my grandmother said later on, she told me that it wasn't in the garage for very long. She thought that there's a possibility that one of her other boys had been using it. But it was definitely in the garage at one point when half of the garage had fallen in, the concrete blocks had fallen in from Twister or tornado. But and it got damaged then, but it damaged the back end and the quarter panel and broke out the back window. But it was still a usable car. We just don't know what happened to it after that. Did somebody junk it? I don't know. It had been another 15 years before I'd gone back. And by the time I got back there, the garage and everything was gone. They had torn it down, put up a new one, and it wasn't there. A Valiant, we called it the company car. Dad had a candy apple red, all original restored convertible Mustang just sitting in the garage. Wow. That'd be nice. Huge international truck with no power steering, and it weighed like 110 pounds. International, I believe just the steering column weighed 200 pounds in an international pickup. I had a buddy in high school who had an international Scout, and he would roll that. Well, not on purpose, but he rolled that thing multiple times in the sand dunes, and it never crushed the roof in on that thing. It was built like there was no tomorrow. If you want an end of apocalypse vehicle, get one of those suckers. We rode around in a tricked out '69 Baja with a Baja Bug. It went by. Where'd it go? Volkswagen Beetle. My out here in my driveway, my wife has a 1965 Volkswagen Bug, two-door hardtop. It's probably going to rot into the ground before it ever moves another foot. But there's a whole story about why it's sitting there and why it hasn't moved. And well over, well, since we moved here, it got moved here, but it sat at our old house for 10 years, 7 years, somewhere in there. When I was 16, I bought a 1972 Chevy Caprice. Isn't it nice the way that, cars used to be made? I mean, they weren't very fuel economical, but, you could get into an accident in one and, a small fender bender and you'd survive and it wouldn't total the car. Not so much anymore. My husband just bought our grandkids a cool dirt bike. He loved it. That's cool. You restored a 68 VW Bug? That's cool, Patty. When I was young, we had a Buick Wildcat. They're built like a tank. One of the dumbest things I ever did, Jennifer, when my grandfather gave me the car, it had a dent in the rear quarter panel. And this is how bright I was as a 16-year-old. I thought, I'll just open the trunk, climb into the trunk, and I'll just, put my hands against one quarter panel and I'll kick the dent out of the other side. I damn near broke both my legs with the first kick. Now, what I didn't understand was that 65 Buick Wildcat, and a lot of the Wildcats built back then, were built out of after the decommissioned warships, and battleships. They cut them up and then they melted the metal down, and that's what went into actually making a lot of the cars of the 1960s. That's how how good that steel was back then. I damn near broke both my legs trying to kick that small little dent out. It was right by the tail light. It didn't work. Didn't work at all. I got hit by a small steamroller with my Rambler, and still it drove. Picky is probably why it's nice. Excuse me. Restored the Baja. That was many moons ago. My neighbor keeps on trying to buy that Volkswagen off of me. He's offered my wife like $5,000 and a Volkswagen Golf for it, both the cash and a car. But she's got too much sentimental attachment to it. It'll probably never move from the driveway. Just gonna sit there forever and ever and ever. I've never had real sentimental value attached to a car. I've owned a lot of cars and trucks in my lifetime, but I've never had, like, oh, this, even the car that my grandfather, gave me, I didn't have, a sentimental value to it. It was nice that my grandfather gave it to me, but he gave it to me because I knew there was a reason why. It's because it needed a lot of work. It needed, it leaked oil like there was crazy. I had to fix the oil leak when I first got it, and I know that. And then it needed a carburetor rebuilt, or a new carburetor, before it ever even left his house. So I had to do a lot of that work, myself. And it was kind of like, like he wanted to, I think it was more of a test to see if I would actually put in the work to get it running in roadworthy. And then I had to put new tires on the damn thing, because it had 4 mismatched tires, and they were all, probably, rotted. I mean, he drove it around once in a while, but mainly during the summer, because he didn't want it to rust away because of the salt that they put on the roadways in Minnesota. So So I did, and then he just handed me the keys and the title and said, "Here you go, it's yours." I had a motorcycle for a summer and old beaters for the winters. Beater with a heater. That's what we used to call them back home. A beater with a heater during the wintertime. Even on the farm, we got vehicles we drive just in the wintertime. Don't use it during the summer, or any other time of the year. Just during the winter, late fall, whenever the road conditions change. A beater with a heater. Around here, you don't drive anything you're attached to during the winter. Now, have fun with your 8 grandkids. 8 grandkids. Wow. And Gene has 5. Ain't got none of those. No grandkids yet for me. Don't know if I ever will. If I'll be around when either my daughter has them or if my son. No, my son's only 5 years old. I mean, so don't think he's gonna be having any kids anytime soon. I drove for the first time out in the country when I was knee high to a grasshopper at age 10. Um, Gene, I don't know how old I was, but we used to have a old Chevy pickup that was on the farm that we used to use for hauling around, bales of hay or other small pieces of equipment or just using to do fence repair or whatever. It had no doors. It had a bench seat. It had no windshield, but it had a rope that we used, kind of like one giant seat belt across the entire seat, a rope. I don't know if there was no seat belts in it or if that was just something that my dad modified the damn thing so and we didn't fall out of it when we were in it. But he actually took 2 pieces of 2x4 and bolted them to the gas pedal and to the brake pedal to extend them up off the floor so we could actually reach the pedals. I remember that, and it had like baling wire and some kind of thing with like strapping metal that had holes all the way through it. And I can't remember what it's for, but that's how he attached it to the gas pedal and brake pedal. So you would step on 2x4s, which actually pushed down on the pedals. But I remember I was young enough that I had to use that in order to drive that truck around. And I used it mainly to feed the chickens and to clean up the horse stalls and stuff like that. We just shoveled everything into a barrel and then the barrel into the back of the truck. If you pull up the way the barn sits, it sits on level ground, but there was a part where you can pull up, where the truck bed was below the actual floor on one side of the barn. So you just had to move everything out of the barn into the bed of the truck. It was a 63 Harley Davidson flathead. Those were fun. Wow. My dad had a motorcycle, but he took me on it with no helmet. So as punishment, my mom made him park the motorcycle down at the marina with boats. Really? I've never owned a Harley Davidson. I've owned quite a few Yamahas, Kawasaki's, Norton, but I've never owned a Harley. Matter of fact, on the outside of the studio here on the shelf, I have I believe a 73 or 74 Yamaha 250 something. I think it's a 250. I got the motor, the frame, um, transmission. I have the entire bike, but it's all taken apart. I used to build cafe racers, just kind of like um, for fun. It wasn't really the most profitable thing, but it was something to do. Good morning, Purple. Am I going to get a Tesla? No, too expensive. I've got other things to do with my money, Francie. Never wore helmets. I never wore a helmet when I rode any of them. Here now, um, yeah, you have to have a helmet, even if as a passenger in the state that I'm in now. I owned and rode a Honda Shadow 600cc. Now I do four wheelers. That's cool. I remember the old Honda three wheelers. Those were fun. We had a couple of those on the farm. Never had any forerunners though. Um, Now they're on the farm. They have like John Deere side by sides. I think they have two. Been 3 years since almost 4 years since I've been there. So I mean, things could change. I'd have to call my sister and ask her, what they have. But we never wore helmets, even on those Honda three wheelers. We were just out there having fun, trying not to kill ourselves. But then again, we didn't, go a million miles an hour down some stupid trail with them either. They are more utility, usage than anything else. But it only got people only got hurt on them when they did stupid things like deciding to go out and jump dunes or ramps or whatever, something that they weren't even made for. I'm sure I've seen it like on the YouTube channel, Junkyard Digs. I think he's fixed up quite a few Honda three wheelers over the years on his channel. I catch every once in a while. I catch his content. I prefer to watch Diesel Creek. So Matt over at Diesel Creek and watch him, mess around with heavy machinery or whatever. My dad made sure when we got on the motorcycle, he bought us a 65, a 50, and a Honda 90 that we rode around the deserts by Mattawa in the summer. They don't make three-wheelers due to high accidents and death rate. Yeah, no, they don't. I know they canceled them a long time ago. The manufacturing of three-wheelers. But look at it now. I mean, they have some of those kid size, forerunners that are. I mean, they're only meant to go so fast. But if you walk into a dealership to buy one right now on the floor, they'll tell you exactly how to change the governor on it, in a heartbeat, so it'll go faster. And I would hate to see what my son, or not now, but in a couple of years, if he was able to, what he would do on one. You can't picture me in a Tesla. Well, that's good because the chances, Rebecca, of me ever getting one are very slim. They were fun back then. Mattawa. I think my wife was in Mattawa this past week. They the research study that she was doing with University of Washington that ended on Friday, so it ended yesterday. So she's got Saturday and Sunday off, and then Monday she starts her new job, working for a government contractor. But I think she was in. I know she was in Ellensburg. She might have been in Mattawa because they didn't have anybody here to do the test, the part of the research project here with. So they were going to fill in other areas, in the state. But for some reason, I think they were in Mattawa or near Mattawa. don't know for sure. Can't say 100% that they were there, because I'm sure that it would probably violate some kind of rules or regulations. For I mean, it wouldn't violate HIPAA because I'm not obviously giving away information about individuals, but it's all part of a research study. So I can't say, yeah, they were definitely in Mattawa, or they were definitely in Toppenish, or they were definitely in Yakima. I just know that they went as far away as Grant County, and a couple other larger counties farther away. Well, thank you, Patty. Been a long time coming. Took almost a year, for her to find long-term, employment. Sorry, it took almost a year. Thought your wife was a nurse. Will, no. Starfire. My wife has worked in medical laboratories for years. She originally started out as a phlebotomist about 20. Oh God, no. So she worked for our local hospital for 26 years. So she started off as a phlebotomist probably about 28 years ago. And then she transferred from phlebotomy to um, the laboratory sciences. And then she stuck in the laboratory sciences for 26 years. And then she transferred to a pathology laboratory and worked on the pathology side. And the research study that she was helping with for UW, she was there as first off because of her credentials and everything else. They needed somebody who had to be part of each group. They had different groups around the state, but she had to be there because of her medical background and licensing. But she did some phlebotomy in drawing work, and other things. But she's never been a nurse. But she has worked in hospitals and clinics and pathology, laboratories, which is basically, looking at the what happened, the tissue of think something that's dead or a person. But Mattawa has grown up so much. Just seeing in the last 20 years, can't go camping on the Columbia River down by there anymore. Oh, that sucks. We go camping along outside of Goldendale. It's farther towards the coast, but I've got a buddy who's got a cabin up there outside of Goldendale. But there's some pretty nice camping up that way. We also go deer hunting up there. We used to, I should say. COVID pretty much ruined it. That, and there was the a breakout of the what they call wasting disease had gotten into the elk herds up there. So that pretty much did away with going there unless you're being paid by the wildlife department to go hunt them. Everybody kind of switched over to the other side of the state to go hunting. Question for you, Will. When does Josh Duggar get sentenced, and why was the date pushed out by his defense team? Gene, his sentencing date is May 25th. So here, coming up this month, because tomorrow's the first, right? Yeah, Sunday first. Yeah. So the 25th of May. And the reason why his sentencing date got pushed out by a month, 30 days exactly, is because they had certain things that they needed to be heard by the court, and that this was everybody who goes through federal court has the same rights, and they're almost automatically, if you get convicted in federal court, you get each and every one of them as part of the process that your attorney can file each and every one of these motions. And the reason why they gave him 30 days is because the judge who is hearing the case, he actually has to be able to, with his calendar, book each and every one of them to hear each and every one of those motions before the 30 within the time that he moved it out. So that is the quick version. There's more to it than that, but the drought out west is horrible. Can't use our boats anywhere anymore. No, no. And the Columbia down where I am, Patty, well, but we're like several dams, up, water from Mattawa, but coming up here where we are, you can use your boat on the Columbia. You can't use it on some of the other tributaries and other rivers off of the Columbia. Wouldn't mind drawing people's blood all day. Meep, you know, if you can find some place to get the experience, I highly recommend for anybody out there, if you got kids, grandkids, or whatever, if they can get into the medical field, do it. The baby boomers are all retiring right now as we speak. And right behind them, we have the next rush, their firstborn, the baby boomers' firstborn, who are getting ready to retire. And it's just going to, there's a huge population of America that is going to be retiring within here and now in the next 15 years. So, I mean, and the medical field is so under staffed in all areas, phlebotomy, laboratory sciences, nurses, doctors, whatever. I mean, it's a great area, and you can go anywhere once you get the experience in the background and find a job. So I shouldn't say anywhere, but there's probably some small town in Vermont that doesn't have a doctor or whatever. But the sight of blood makes you ill. No problem, Gene. I live in Indiana, and I just seen two charging stations for the Tesla. That's even driving to a visit center off the interstate. Well, that's cool. Washington State is the most proactive in putting in charging stations than any other state. Don't know why, but according to the Department of Transportation, that's the thing. I guess they're probably because of all the charging stations in the Seattle area. I know of two gas stations locally that have, they're not just Tesla, but they're Tesla and they have like the multi different configurations for, it's like pulling up to a gas pump. You have three different handles. You have one for Tesla, one for Nissan, and you have one for it's like the multi for other vehicles. So they're fast, rapid charging stations. Both of those are, but I'll never own one. I shouldn't say never. I mean, I don't know what the hell my wife planning on doing next. I just bought her a new car and she's already talking about getting rid of it to get something else. I mean, it's not. I didn't buy it today. I bought it 3 years ago, but I paid for it in cash. I don't buy cars and take loans out. And they wanted to charge me $160 to use my debit card to purchase the car, and I was like, well, I guess I'm going to go buy my car somewhere else. It came that close. I'm not joking. They said, well, there's a credit card transaction, a debit card transaction to buy the car. I'm like, I'm buying a $23,000 car, and you want to charge me $160 to buy it on my debit card? I'm ready to walk right now. Take that off. I'm buying the car outright. This is the price I agreed to. I'm kind of an a-hole when it comes to dealing with cars. I can't stand car lots. They don't take out loans. I buy everything outright. Otherwise, I don't need it. Royal Gorge near Arkansas River in Colorado, or Kilorado, as many friends call it. I hope it's not. I hope it's not the entire state that's Colorado, because my sister lives there. She lives out. Well, I wouldn't say outside of Denver. She's closer to Denver, Colorado, is where my sister lives. But yeah, there have been a lot of high-profile cases of people getting murdered in Colorado, especially in the last couple of years. Colorado. Reminds me of the scene in Fargo with the true coat, right? You got to get the true coat. No. That's a great movie, by the way. Cement Shoes. I thoroughly enjoyed Fargo, and I would say 99.5% of my family talks just like that. The movie, the characters in Fargo, but we don't live anywhere near Fargo. I mean, I have family all up and down, the state of Minnesota, to International Falls, which is up by the Canadian border, but not near Fargo, but all the way down. But most of my family is in Wisconsin, and they all talk just like that. Yeah, you betcha. It's real. Loves Fargo. I'm paying 19.5 for this vehicle. I'm from Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri. Love boating, fishing, water skiing back in the day. I don't even own a boat. Used to. Until I moved out here. I own several boats. I mean, well, I shouldn't say that. I have a kayak, but I mean, I guess that's a boat. Um, I think it's been in the water all of 5, 6 times since I bought it. That's it. I just don't have time for it. Don't get to fish around here because I've never been much of a for fishing for like on a river, more lake fishing. Just go out and just don't care if you catch anything or not. Going out for the fun of it, relaxation. The river, you got to have an anchor or something, or to tie yourself to, otherwise float on down the river. Never know. To each their own. Boating, we used to do boating, water tubing, water skiing, all kinds of things back home. Not here though. Don't want to be the owner. I'd get a DWI, driving while boating. DWI. It's something like that here too. Um, it's like, but they call it like operating a boat under influence, or OPU or something like that. But it's like a DUI. It's the same tolerance, as driving a vehicle. Or you can get it on a boat, jet ski. You can get it on any kind of watercraft. Boats are for partying. I have quite a few friends though that own charter fishing services. They're actually out this weekend. They're out on doing charter surcharge for restaurants to do it, if you want to watch your seat. Or an OWI, operating while intoxicated. Yeah, I think it's what it's called here. Cement Shoes. OWI. It's not DUI. Obviously driving, but operating while intoxicated or something like that. But we also have the it's not while intoxicated. It might be impaired. So same letter I, because it's alcohol or marijuana. You can be get the same ticket for the same thing. Yeah, but all my friends are out this weekend, running charter. They own well, two of my friends own charter services, and they employ all their kids and a couple of our other friends to work with them on their charter boats. They do salmon and walleye, sturgeon, um, trout. I mean, they do all kinds of the bass, but they basic, charter fish services inland, they all have their captain's licenses, so they can actually go offshore, and in the actual ocean and be a captain there as well. Because in our state, you have to have a captain's license in order to own and operate a fishing charter service. And they've got massive boats. And you could probably put 15 people on one of these boats, just out on the river fishing. They have people, they'll bait your hook for you, and you reel it in up to the boat, and they'll net it and bring it in, and they'll fillet it and package it all right there on the boat. It's an entire inclusive service. So you get it all freeze, shrink wrapped and freeze packed, ready, throw in your cooler, take it home. Do they? Yeah, meat. They do it all. Everything you catch. The only thing you have to have is a license to fish for whatever the hell you're fishing for. Different. You have to have in our state. You have to have a license for depending on what it is. Like you have to have a fishing license, but you have to. I think you have to have a salmon tag or a sturgeon tag or whatever. I think I'm not sure on that part, but and they do everything for you. They clean it, fillet it, package it, and then put it on dry ice, and then you can take it home. Now you even get a little, it's like a cooler bag. It's not like a hard side cooler, but you got a name with a bag with the name of the company, already silk screened on the bag that you can reuse again. So pretty cool. I don't know what it costs to go out on their boat, but I'm sure it's not cheap. But they do it professionally. This is all they do. It's amazing though. I mean, if if that's the kind of service and the things that you want to do, then go with it. I've been on one service like that. It happened to be on the actual date of the 9/11 attack in New York. I was out on a salmon charter boat fishing the day of the 9/11 attack. That was the one and only time I've ever been on a charter boat like that. We came to shore after fishing all day, and you couldn't find anybody anywhere. There were trucks with trailers in the parking lot. It looked like people just abandoned. We walked across the parking lot to the Denny's. There was nobody in the Denny's. A sign that said, seat yourself, serve yourself, leave money on counter, or something like that. Everybody was gone. They thought like basically like World War III had started. They left everything. Gas stations, supermarkets, everything. Well, it wasn't huge supermarket, small little, small town convenience store, grocery store. Everybody was gone. It was weird. It's like walking into, a post-apocalyptic world after we pulled into the dock and we got off and we like, where the hell is everybody? The gas, even where they sold gas at, they had a pump thing there and it got a little service attendant there on the dock. Everybody was gone. We didn't see another soul until we got back to the motel, and that was, I'd say 6 hours later. We finally saw another person. It was a county sheriff. He was just happened to be there at the hotel. He wasn't there for us. He wasn't there to stop anybody from loitering or stealing stuff. He was just hanging out in the parking lot. We walked over to the car and we asked him what the hell was going on. He's like, haven't you heard? America's under attack. We're like, oh, yeah, we saw something on TV about that, but it ain't happening here. Where the hell's everybody? They all left. Is tomorrow Mother's Day, Francie? No, it's May 8th. May 8th. Well, at least we're here with it. I live, May 8th. Better not be tomorrow. I'd be in deep doo-doo if it was tomorrow. Because my wife's gift won't be here until Monday. Yeah, I bought my wife a gift, and I'm not going to say what it is because she could be listening to the stream. Just because she hasn't popped into the actual stream in the chat doesn't mean she's not listening. I'm not going to say what I got, but yeah. It's amazing though, if you think about it, how much money we spend on Mother's Day versus Father's Day. I'm not saying that we have to spend, equally on the two. It's just how much, you know, um, the media and society, social media, mainstream media, I'm talking about it all together. Everything is pushed, towards Mother's Day and not so much Father's Day. I haven't looked at the calendar yet. I should probably do that. I'm here. I have the calendar on my computer. Let's see here. April, May, June. Let's see. When's Father's Day? It doesn't say on the computer. Is it Sunday the 19th this year? When is Father's Day? When is Father's Day 2022? June 19th. Yay! Father's Day this year, ladies and gentlemen, is June 19th. It falls on a Sunday. It falls on my birthday this year. Again, every so many years, Father's Day falls on my birthday. So, June 19th. Love them old cars. Purple? So do I. Unfortunately, I'm priced out of the market pretty much for when it comes to old cars. That's why I love my old truck. It's a slow restoration. It'll probably take me my lifetime to get it done. That is absolutely true. When it comes to old cars, the styles and everything else, they didn't look like the year before's model. You know, it's like my wife's. She drives a Chevy Traverse. If you took the last 4 years of Chevy Traverse and put them side by side, you would be really hard to find a lot of difference of the inside or the outside cosmetically. They changed things a little bit here. They softened a little bit of edges here, moved the tail lights a little bit differently, but they're basically the same car. They all look the same. They're just a cookie cutter stamp, and they just keep on mass producing them. That's because we labored, to bring you into this world. Why Mother's Day is celebrated more than Father's Day. I think we should celebrate Mother's Day more than Father's Day. It's just that when you look at how they push certain holidays, it's more about consumer spending than it is about necessarily the importance. What about all the women out there who've never had children? There are a lot of them out there. Having children is not for everybody. And then there are also mothers out there who should never have had children. Do we have to celebrate them on Mother's Day? My wife's car, Kathleen, you can't even change the oil in. Can't change the oil. You can't. The only thing you can do is add more windshield washer fluid, and you can check the radiator, the coolant level. That's it. It's got a giant plastic thing over the top of it, and if you break the seal, it voids the warranty. You can't do anything. Valentine's Day, Sweet Day is a racket. Is not is that Valentine's Day? I'm thinking of St. Patrick's Day and how they were. Some of them were invented just to to sell items. It's like different companies got together and like, oh, we can come up. I think it might have been Valentine's Day. Now that I think about it too. Yeah. Learned to drive in a 1956 two-door hardtop. Yes, it was the desert around Meadow. I was 12 years old. My brother put pillows behind me, hell, and under me so I could see out the drive. That would be cool. My uncle Gene taught me and my sister to drive in a 76. No, it wasn't 76. It was earlier. It was a Cadillac DeVille, huge car. But we used to drive from Minneapolis, where he lived. We would drive from our house to Minneapolis to meet up with him and the other family members, and then we would drive all the way up, well, three-quarters of the way up to the state of Minnesota, up 90 or 94. I can't remember what stupid highway it is. 90 or 94. It just changed its number at Fargo, coming across the border. But anyways, but he we'd get in the car and he'd tell us, okay, you see where there's three lines? There's a white line, there's a dark line, and a white line because of the oil on the road. He goes, just get in the car and plant your butt down that dark line. Just follow that dark line. So we would drive and operate the gas pedal and stuff like that. This is the first time we ever drove a car on the road. We drove it around on the farm all the time, the truck, but we never drove on the street. And that's how he taught us how to drive the car. But we were so dumb, and so young, we didn't think about how fast we were going, or if there was a stop sign coming up, or a stoplight, or anything else. We just kept on going because he never told us how to brake or how to watch out for anything else. We're so focused on keeping ourselves right on that black line down the middle of the road. I remember my sister, I think it was near the Monticello or someplace upstate Minnesota. She was driving. I was in the back seat of that Cadillac, and we were zooming along, and she went right through the first stoplight in town with three kids in the back seat, my Uncle Gene in the passenger seat, and her driving. She went right through that stoplight. Seems like Father's Day is about 1/10 of an importance emphasis spending on Mother's Day. But it was invented by Hallmark. I wouldn't doubt that at all. Hallmark, stores and greeting cards and flowers and candies. I wouldn't be surprised by that. What did Anthony Todd do? Not familiar with that case. Anthony Todd. Did he kill his family? I'm drawing a blank on matching the name to the crime right now. I know the name, but I think he killed his family, though, for some reason. But I'm not entirely sure off the top of my head, Kathleen. Yes, he killed his entire family. I think Lamar covered that it Lamont, not Lamar, Lamont at large is his YouTube channel, Lamont, and he also has Fascinating Graveyard. But I think he covered Anthony Todd case on his channel on Lamont at large. Even Watts didn't kill the dog. Killed the wife and three kids, even the dog. Yeah, I was right. But I'm pretty sure Lamont at large covered it. He actually walked by the house and showed the house that it happened at and everything else. talked about the case on his channel. Pretty sure of it, though. Some people make me sick with all the killing they do. Well, that's true. Did you know that there, in the speaking of cement shoes, brought up Christopher Watts. Did you guys know that there are not one, not two, not three, but there are four different Wattses that have killed multiple people? Two of them are considered spree killers, and one is considered a serial killer. And then there's Christopher Watts, who's considered a dumbass. But there are four, all spelled the same way, Watts. The serial killer was Carl Eugene Watts. He was an active serial killer between 1974 and 1982. Now, I don't know if any of them are related to each other, but Watts, the last name, there have been four. And the other two were spree killers. I don't have them listed on here. These are just this is my list of for my shorts, my YouTube shorts that I do. They're not really shorts because they don't qualify for the YouTube shorts because they're not in the vertical format, but they're they're under 60 seconds. So they're shorts, but the family annihilator and a dumbass. Familicide. We all see death penalty cases there. Lamont is also a black Bigelow, too. Bigelow, gigolo. And everywhere he goes, everyone knows the boss he's playing. I like Lamont's content. It's fascinating graveyards and Lamont at large. Wish I could do something like that. Just travel around the United States and talk about cases in individual places. I thought about doing something like that on my channel. Just talking about historical cases. Kind of like what Lamont does for that have happened here in my area and around my state. And then seeing how that works, for my channel, and then doing it, maybe more if as things get lifted and I'm able to travel farther distances. Grim Life's good. I'll always refer to Christopher Watts as a dumbass. He didn't have to do what he did. He did it because he's a chicken shit. He didn't have to kill his kids. He didn't have to kill his wife. He could have just gotten a divorce and walked away. He didn't have to do that. Faces of the Forgotten. I've watched some of their content, a couple of videos here and there. I haven't watched it. I should say that, Mike, I haven't watched enough of Faces of the Forgotten to maybe to form an opinion about the accuracy or the content itself. But that's what makes a difference for like Lamont. Is he most of it is pretty factual. He does insert quite here and there his views about certain people, but he tries to stay away from that for the most part. Like the name Scott Peterson. Weren't there two of them both killed their wives? I think there's more than that. I think there may have been two different Petersons who killed their wives. I'm not going to dispute that part. I'm pretty sure you're right there. But I think there's another Peterson as well. I mean, this is not an all-inclusive list. These are just the videos that I've already filmed or shot put together the footage and research on. And in case you're wondering, this list and the other sheet here, this is 200 total names, and I've got their kill counts and everything else. There was a Hubert, and that's not the saying though. Hubert Peterson, who was a serial killer. He was active from 1955 to 1982. Hubert has a kill count of 17. One pushed his wife down the stairs. Yeah. I think Mother's Day and Father's Day were invented by Hallmark Card Company. It could have been. It'd be interesting to actually kind of research that to find out what, yeah, but both of them may have actual origins that are completely different from how we celebrate them today, like Christmas. Christmas today, what we people celebrate and how they celebrate it, is vastly different from how the actual holiday itself and the event started. And Halloween, that is completely different here in America, and around the world from how it started off. Wonder what last names had most killings. Which last name is the most common? There are some that are repetitive, but at least on the list that I have here. But when it comes to American serial killers, they don't even come close to touching the total kill count of some of those in India, Russia. Some of those serial killers have 200-300 victims. Here in America, if we take his actual real number of drawings and paintings he did and confessions, Samuel Little would be up there as the most prolific serial killer of all time in America. Not necessarily the largest, kill count, but it's hard to, excuse me, serial killers, a lot of them that have been caught over the years, they can say, okay, we can confirm you killed 19. And once they get, they know they're caught, they're guilty, they're gonna put them away. They'll extrapolate and say, oh, you know what? My total kill count was 67. You only know of 19. So just because they admit to 67 doesn't mean that they really did, kill 67. Where Samuel Little, we know that he killed into the total number of confirmed ones are in the 90s, but we don't know exactly how many, and there may be a lot more that he never confessed to or talked about, because there are several that where he talked about killing in different locations and the same methodology and everything else, but there is no actual concrete proof of that he killed there. But would he lie? Sure, they all lie. I mean, they don't. They keep a little piece to themselves, memento or something. Probably Smith for the most Green River Killer, and Gacy, I would say. Green River Killer. Yeah, he's on here. Ridgeway. Gacy. Gacy was the first one that I did. He's number 100. John Wayne Gacy. Donald Henry Baskin, serial killer from 1953 to 1982, has 80 plus that they believe he killed, but they've never been able to confirm that he killed that many. But never heard of Samuel Little. He just died a year ago, in natural causes in prison in California. Samuel Little, uh, in and out of it was institutionalized most of his life. You know, he in and out of prison. Um, he killed prostitutes, runaways, drug addicts, and homeless women. And he all across the United States, from California to Mississippi. I think he had one victim in Florida, but or maybe he took her across the border out of Florida. But a lot of them, they had no idea that he killed in those areas, and he painted pictures. You'll probably, if you look him up on the internet, you'll recognize all the stupid, ugly paintings that he did. He tried to do paintings of each and every one of his victims, and those ones that he did paintings of, he remembered an extraordinary amount of details. And when they went back to those actual locations, some of the topography has changed massively since he was there, and they actually found, when they did excavations in some of the areas that they're able to, they found actual bones. So they found that, okay, this person was there. Was killed there, but they'll never find the remains and be able to put a name to all of them. But one of them was underneath a mall. It's now a mall. It was an actual field and a road at one point, but it's now a mall parking lot. They, did somebody find the body? Did they get listed as a Jane Doe somewhere along the line and then get buried in a pauper's grave, and they didn't know that he killed them? Most of his victims he strangled to death. There were, I think, one or two that he stabbed, but never heard of him either. Seemed to live forever in prison, dying of natural causes. Well, they're they're on death row. You're secluded away from the general population, and for most circumstances, so they don't have to worry about getting in, physical altercations or anything else. So they do tend to live longer. The average appeal for a death row inmate is just about 30 years. It takes for the entire appeal process for those who have been sentenced to death. And the appeals process stops immediately if they put a moratorium on the actual death penalty. So, and if they lift that moratorium, then the appeals process and that clock starts ticking again, where they get to go through all the appeals and everything else. It should be noted at the same time that we've had over a dozen individuals who have been sentenced to die in America who have been freed from death row because of the help of the Innocence Project and others. Over a dozen, have either been on death row or they were on death row and then removed from death row while their appeals process worked out. But they were sentenced to die at some point for their crimes. And because of the Innocence Project, we were able to prove that they never did it, and that somebody else actually committed the crime. And these people spent 20, 30 years in prison, for a crime that they never committed. Why did they put Dahmer with other inmates? They didn't. Dahmer was in protective custody, and he was on a work detail cleaning when a guard accidentally allowed inmates into that area from general population. And well, let's just say that they got what you would call prison justice on Jeffrey Dahmer. Accidentally allowed them into the same area. So it happens. So, just keep that in mind when people like, Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow Daybell go to prison for murdering JJ and Tylee, Tammy and Joseph and Charles. Look, they killed Joseph, even if it wasn't, physically killing him. But when they go to prison for it all, there is that slight chance that somebody will get to him. There is a slight chance that somebody will eventually get to Christopher Watts. These things happen. There's slight chance that they'll eventually get to Scott Peterson. Mistakes happen. Why are we fascinated with serial killers, Francie? I don't know why you are, but I know why I am, and why other people who are interested in serial killers are. And maybe this will pertain to you as well. When it comes to serial killers, and people who kill in general, not doesn't have to necessarily be serial killers, but a lot of it is people try to figure out the signs of, okay, what was this person like? What did they do for a living? Is there correlation between the way that they acted, the way they lived within the community, the way that they actually killed and hunted for their victims? Is there a correlation or anything that we can learn from the actual story itself that we can say, okay, that guy down in the corner who's always giving me that creepy vibe, that guy acts just like Jeffrey Dahmer or Ted Bundy or whoever, and we try to make that correlation, with them, in things and people we know within our own lives. But on top of that, people like myself and a whole lot of other people out there, it's the psychology behind it, trying to figure out what makes that person tick. What made them get to the point where they killed their first victim? Was it abuse in their background? Was it abuse in their background and then a fascination with death, or hurting animals? What was it that made them, before they killed that very first victim? Because if you look at all the interviews and studies that have been done with those who've been caught, who have been willing to tell the truth to investigators, which is a huge issue because a lot of them like to, again, lie and extrapolate, like, oh, I did this, and they're like, we don't have any proof of that. But who will fudge the truth? But those who were actually honest, they all have certain things in common, that they like to, how did they get to that first murder? Once they got to that first murder and they committed that first murder, they all have said that the second and the third and so on subsequent down the line got easier and easier and easier to do. That's the fascination a lot of people have with serial killers. Maybe you are fascinated in the same things as well. Don't know. I think Kemper is the most interesting. Meep, I don't know if he's the most interesting, but I'll give you that. He is definitely up there with his intellectual, his intellect, and how he has been able to, bend and warp the criminal justice system around him, and how he was able to convince the state hospitals that he wasn't insane, that he was insane, and he's not insane. Now he's insane over and over again, and how many doctors he was able to fool over all the years of his incarceration and while he was out on the street working for the Department of Transportation. It's really interesting. I'll give you that. Um, when it comes to the most interesting, I would say that Arthur Sawcross, Arthur Saw, as Saw, SAW, Cross, CROSS, Arthur Sawcross is probably the most interesting of it all, because the entire time that he was killing, he was keeping journals and he was very aware of what he was doing was wrong, and that he could not find a way to get out of that norm. It's kind of like um, somebody who uses drugs or alcohol in that aspect. He was addicted to the actual process and the hunt and the feeling, and the killing and all that. He was addicted to it, and he wanted to stop, but he could not find a way to get out of his own way. He just kept on going and going and going and going. And he, if you read some of the information on him and see some of the interviews about him, it's amazing just how much he tried. He really wanted to stop killing people, but he could not stop. I find him the most interesting myself because not too many of the or any of actually besides maybe Bundy. Bundy's interesting for a different aspect though, but not a lot of them do a lot of self-diagnosis, or they're not very self-aware. It's like they're drawn to it, they do it, but they don't look at it and say, you know what, I really should stop doing this. I should stop hanging out in parking lots and killing co-eds. But Sawcross did. Fascinated with their psychology. He reads books to blind inmates on tape. Kemper. Kemper does. He's not the only one who's done that, though. There have been other inmates who have done that as well. Made audio tapes, books on tapes for other inmates who couldn't see. Teddy bears. Teddy bears, your favorite. Good old Bundy. Good old Bundy. In case you're interested, Arthur Sawcross was killing between 1971 and 1989. 1971 to 1989 is how active. That's the period of time that Arthur Sawcross was killing. Good old Teddy. Teddy's interesting in a lot of different ways. A lot of different ways. I don't believe half of what he ended up saying, but he was definitely an interesting man. Albert Fish was a weirdo. Yeah. That's an understatement. Albert Fish. Some of the people that I have on the list of those little shorts that people haven't seen yet are, you'd be surprised, and they've probably been killing in and around your area. If you're in the United States, I'm assuming. We got one that's coming up. I can't believe that I never heard of him until I started making the list of murderers. Interesting that Arthur Sawcross felt conflicted. Yeah. And he talked about there's one video, I think he did it with the FBI. I've been trying to find I've seen the copyrighted version online that somebody else has on a website. I think it might have been on A&E or someplace else, but you can't download it from them. But I think he did it with the FBI, an interview where he talked about how he wanted to stop killing people, but he could not find a way to get away from the hunt. The hunting itself was like a drug to him. He wanted to stop so badly, but he couldn't find a way to. You can't just walk into a psychiatrist's office and say, hey, I've been killing people for close to 12 years now. I would like to stop. Can you help me? That wouldn't go over all that great. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to wrap the stream up there this morning. Move this out of my way so I don't speak into it and blow your eardrum out. But I'm going to wrap the stream up there this morning, and I hope you all had a great, morning, and I hope you have a terrific rest of the day. Don't forget, we have music crime trivia tomorrow night at 5 p.m. on Sunday. So I hope to see you all there. While we're still going, don't give this a thumbs up if you liked it. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. You know, either way, it's considered an interaction. It helps move it up just a tiny bit in the algorithm. Maybe somebody else will see it and they'll enjoy the actual stream itself. You know, if you're not a subscriber, I hope that you will become a subscriber so I can give you a shout out next Saturday. But in the meantime, everyone, you stay safe out there and have a great day.